I'm Marc Raimondi, author of Say Hello to the Bad Guys, and you are watching and listening to Verbal
Our shenanigans are
Shenanigans.
cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really. Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Hello, everybody. Welcome on back to the show. Verlu, are you coming down off of the celebration that was 500 for you?
I mean, I had so many people calling, writing, coming by my house. There was a big parade down the streets of Georgia just for me. And the greatest thing of all is now that 500's over with, I can half-ass this podcast for a good $4.99 or so.
You've been half-assing this podcast for 499 episodes.
3/4 assing it. Thank you. Now I'm down to half-assing it. Okay.
I don't know. After that picture you sent me, that was almost half-assing it. It was a little much.
Are you requesting full ass? Because I can get pictures going. I mean, if you need to.
I guess I kind of want to. I don't know. Just because we're recording, for those of you, this comes out Monday, but we're recording on the 10th here of September. And today we were met with the news of Charlie Kirk. If you don't know him, conservative speaker. You've probably seen some clips of him online. He's the one did like a college tour. I think he started a nonprofit thing. Very controversial figure, of course, because then everybody's controversial now. Right wing kind of guy, Christian belief guy. He's like one of the guys you see debating people on what is a man, woman, type of stuff like that. Was shot in the neck at not a rally, at one of his events in Utah, I believe.
Yep.
And killed. It's weird to not address this on the show because it's just like, I don't know. Times are like in just this last 2 weeks, right? We had a school shooter at that Catholic school. We had this Ukrainian woman murdered on a train. Okay, like cold-bloodedly. We had Charlie Kirk, which we'll get to in a second. It makes the temptation of getting rid of social media more and more for me because it's so toxic. Like these stories are individually tragic. You take everything outside of what actually happened, right? It's completely tragic. Little kids lost their life in this school. This woman lost her life on a train. This man lost his life today speaking. Okay. It's now social media reports it. We don't even let the bodies get cold before it's some political party's fault. It's because of the gun control. It's because of the mental health issues. It's, apparently it takes a genius to think that, yeah, maybe it's a combination of the two. It's a gun problem, mental health problem. I think it's a giant social media problem. It is. You are talked about forever. You are, not iconic is not the word, but these people doing these things are exposed. We learn everything about them. Their manifestos are published. They're getting the attention. And I'm not sitting here telling you I'm like some innocent guy. I read the things. I follow up on the stories. I see the videos. I read the comments, and it's just extremely exhausting and depressing, the state of the country we're in, where we can't even have a story and all be united by something tragic. Like we all can't be like, that is horrible. Immediately we run to Facebook and rifle off our opinion or to get a rise out of people.
Yeah, we're going through quite a sad time because it starts off all right. It's all right as anything like this can be, where people are like, oh, prayers out to him. I hope he survives, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's doing anything. Second it's announced he dies, boom. Hey, what? Here's a joke about the Second Amendment. Oh, yeah, well, Democrats are the ones that do all the killings and all this stuff.
Yep.
It just keeps going on, and you can't just go, man, regardless of what you think about his views, the guy was married with 2 little daughters. I think the oldest daughter is 6, I think 6 and 2.
Yep.
Very young. The kids are going to grow up either barely or not knowing their father.
Uh-huh.
And we're already going through this whole thing of this is what I would do. This is why it's your fault. And it's just never ending. As you say, you can't see somebody die and just go, damn, this is a shame, and then let it ferment and maybe have a mature conversation later on. Well,
Sure.
This is my thought. Hey, did you think of this on that side? Blah, blah, blah. It's just immediately, hey, in 5 minutes, I know what the resolution should be. And it's terrible.
I think through social media, we have completely lost the value of the human life in the videos and in the clips. Like it's just a hand grenade we could toss for, so get the comment sections going and voice your opinion. Like something tragic happens. The first thing is like, I need to tell people what I think about it, without even, digesting it or thinking about okay, let's go on the Charlie Kirk thing. Okay. I don't support the guy. I don't follow him. I don't, his stuff, things have popped up and I've seen clips. I didn't think he was, I thought this happened at an event that was made for some debate. That's one thing I agreed with him about. Like he hosted these events and he would let people come up and say whatever they wanted and ask whatever they wanted. And I think whatever side you're on, left or right, if we're going to get behind this guys that we all like free speech, I would think that would be a positive thing, right? You're allowing people to say what they want, as absurd it was or as educated as it was. He kind of let them speak. He would have some crazy responses here and there and whatnot. But the point being, this is like a civil discourse event where we always say nobody's ever able to state their opinions and disagree, right? Where this is actually someone that there is some disagreement going on, which I liked that part. Okay. And in the end, to me, it's like, here's a 31-year-old man who was murdered in cold blood, and we're celebrating it instantly. We're saying, oh, well, he had these terrible stances. And I'd like to think left or right, you're a proponent of free speech. Mm-hmm. But now we're saying because of what he said, it's okay that he died, okay, or was shot in the neck. I don't know if you watched that video. It is nauseating. It is brutal. It is, it's disgusting. I don't care who it is. I mean, I go back to I don't know, elementary school when we learned that MLK was all about not fighting violence with violence. Let's say you think Charlie Kirk was an extreme right-wing nut, okay? And you think he was causing division and causing this. Yeah, maybe he was doing all that. But I don't think the solution is shooting the man to death. I don't think this is only going to get worse now. Okay, does the right respond and do something? We don't even know who the shooter is, by the way. Yeah. So I should say that. But if it was a left-wing person, does the right now retaliate in some other form to a speaker on the left side? I just cannot take the side thing anymore.
Nah, and what's really sad is he organized the event. As you say, he's one of those, hey, you're completely left, show up, ask me questions, we'll go back and forth or whatever. I've never really followed the guy. I know South Park had some fun with him. I guess he's the general, what a stereotypical Republican, what some people would.
Sure.
If I did an imitation, he would be saying this stuff or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. But it's not say the what's that church?
Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, where that like goes to a funeral and mocks somebody. It's like, hey, they're in hell and they're because they're gay or they like this or didn't follow God. He just had his event. Regardless of what you think, he set it up. He wasn't shoving something in somebody's faces. He wasn't like, go out, find me a transgender and put him in front of me so I can mock them. He just did what he did. And as you were saying, I didn't see the video. It's probably something I don't want. I mean, neck has to be one of the worst ways to die, a bullet through the neck, because one, not breathing, two, you're bleeding out. So you're suffocating in two different ways.
Yeah. You don't need to see the video. You don't need to. Yeah. I'm sure you will. It'll come across, but
yeah.
It's I'm gonna say this, like, I have friends that we were having a little bit of a conversation, and I could be told right now, like, I don't know a lot about Charlie Kirk personally. I don't. I could be told he said even more terrible things and heinous things and said things that I completely disagree with. And he could have said the most absurd things. It's not going to change my opinion that a man shouldn't be murdered for it. Just call him an asshole, debate people on what he's saying, debunk everything he says, unite with people that dislike him. But taking his life, violence on violence it just can't be the answer.
Yeah. I'll take it right to like the biggest one that just recently happened on Trump. Yes. I consider myself independent. I say I kind of lean a little to the left, but I'm not like pure Democrat or any of that. And I'll also say not a big fan of Trump as president. No, you like him, fine. I'm not saying you can't be Republican or you can't like Trump, just my opinion. When he almost got shot, when the second time when the guy's like hiding in this golf course bushes with a gun waiting for him, at no point was I going out there saying, man, I just wish it was a little to the left or right or whatever the joke is. And I do not like him. Not my position to want him to die. As people say, I will not mind when I don't have to hear from him again.
Sure.
I don't want somebody to put a bullet in his head because you just make yourself either A, worse than him, or B, exactly what he describes the people he mocks. So just let people be in certain cases. And if it's somebody in a high power, protest like a mofo. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, it's just like, truly, I just don't know where are we going with all this, man. Like we have no American like unity or pride. Like no one's proud like to unite together and be like, oh, let's reach across the aisle and find common ground and say this is terrible. Like it, but this is why I say social media has to be the problem that caused this, because I can't imagine when JFK got shot that Republicans were commenting like thank God in public and celebrating and making fun of it so quickly and making me obviously not making me but making, I don't know, what did they do, draw something back then, like maybe there were a couple, but I can't imagine this was this widespread my guy won, he's dead, like we just don't care about a human life anymore, that's it.
Yeah, from any videos I've saw like Grassy Knoll and then they catching Lee Harvey Oswald and he gets shot. At no point do I know A, political association of Lee Harvey Oswald, or B, the guy who shot them. I just naturally assume the answer is insane, not a political party. And that's how bad it is getting right now, where it's not only you need to get the answer, people need to be right now. Exactly. They don't need to worry about, broke that rule and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at my stance, it's right. And there's nothing you can do about it. And no, I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah. Here's a little like analogy I was thinking of, or not analogy, but like years ago, and still people give Philly sports fans a hard time, right? Because of how terrible they would be. They would, there were stories of them making fun of people with injuries and, booing Santa Claus and all that. We are now all doing this on a 100 times worse scale. We're seeing somebody shot and saying, haha, that's not my team, like, haha, that's not my team. It's your team's fault. Up, like losers. Like we are doing that on a way less humanitarian scale. Like it's terrible booing a guy that's injured. But if someone gets shot in the neck, we're just like, well, he was completely opposite of me, so I don't care.
He was on the Cowboys. What can we do?
Yeah. Yet everyone's like, the Gaza and Israel thing, we're always complaining about the violence there, and we got to pick sides on it. Like, how do you pick sides on something like that? I just truly don't understand. But I don't need to bring the whole podcast down here. How do we?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, we can bring up, since we're talking about winning teams, Commanders over Giants. Phillies have won the last 3 over the Mets. So, and if you want to bring unity together, WWE NXT had a flag match on Tuesday, and America won. They beat Canada. So,
okay, hold on. First off,
yes,
the Giants losing to the Commanders is like a small blip on this radar.
It wasn't darted, so it doesn't count.
We knew, if you're a Giants fan and you thought otherwise, that opening day was going to be different, you have been misinformed. Did I think it might be a little bit more competitive this year? Did I think we can get a first down? Yes, I did. I did think maybe we'd be a little bit more scrappy. No, I'm not sitting here giving up on the season. Not just yet, but things got to change quickly. The Mets, this is the team they are. They've been up and down the entire season, winning streak, losing streak, winning streak, losing streak. But my big question is, what the hell is a flag match?
Well, a flag match. It was between Ethan Page and I didn't know the other guy, Tavion Heights.
Of course.
I believe Tavion Heights is, I know he's married to a woman who had a gold medal. She just got a contract, but he comes out with like the American flag, but he's facing Ethan Page, the maniacal North American champion, who's also from Canada. So they hate each other so much, they had to have a flag match, which is they put 2 big poles on both sides of the ring, and there's an American flag and there's a Canadian flag, and the only way to win is to recover your country's flag and take the victory. And Tavion Heights beat up Ethan Page to the point where he could climb the turnbuckles, get up the pole, and grab that American flag and wave it for all to see at NXT.
Wow, they're going straight back to like what, Hogan's dead? They're trying to
back to the Iron Sheik and Sergeant Slaughter when he turned and all that stuff. Yeah.
It would have been great if they let all the Mexican luchadors come in and kick the shit out of both Canada and U.S. and take over.
Well, they built the ring, so that's their job.
Yeah. I don't know how we completely segue. I will say before we get to our guest, had a pretty cool experience about 2 weeks ago. And no, it wasn't your 500th episode.
Yeah, because that was last week.
Yeah. The original Ninja Turtles movie, the one from 90, whatever that was, 91, 92, something like that.
I'll look it up as you're talking.
It was the 35th anniversary of the Ninja Turtles movie, which was interesting because I had always thought I saw the Ninja Turtles, the first one, in the theater. I know I saw the second one because my father tricked me and my brother and said we were going to the hardware store, and we cried and pouted. We're like, no, we don't want to go to the hardware store. And it was Ninja Turtles 2. But 35 years, that would have mean I saw the Turtles at like
March 30th, 1990.
1990. That means I would have saw them at 6 years old. I'm not 100% sure I even saw the original in the theater, but it was playing for like one weekend only or 2 weekends. And I was like, I really want to go to this and take my son, he's kind of into the Ninja Turtles. I gave him some of my original Ninja Turtle toys, and it's kind of cool. They're still living on. But I gotta say, this movie holds up. The movie holds up. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed, and I don't know if it's because I was just remembering everything or if it was nostalgia taking over, but I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I was like focused on the puppetry, like the Henson puppets and stuff like that, and like really amazed. I'm like, this looks better than some of the stuff we have now. Like the turtles look amazing in that movie.
Yeah, it was natural costumes. The heads looked perfect. They connected to the body. They put money into it, but you could tell it wasn't like crazy expensive. At the same time, it looked amazing. Everything about it was wonderful. Now, as many turtle movies went forward, they just got worse and worse to the point where it's just like they get a stuntman and paint his face green and just like, yeah, you're a turtle.
Yeah, well, I think it was you who reminded me that the second one, they didn't use weapons. They used like other things.
Yeah, so the first one came out, and keep in mind, they had their weapons in the second one, but basically, even though it was a smash hit and all the kids loved it, I don't know if it's parental groups or the movie studios are like, that was way too violent for kids, so we got to do something. So in the second movie, it's like, oh, the Foot Clan is trying to steal from a toy store, so we're going to pick up like a yo-yo and swing it around and smack them in the face. And, oh, we're in a deli. Michelangelo, I know you usually use nunchucks, but pick up that salami and just twirl it around and smack the shredder in his face.
Yeah. So I took my son, he's 4, almost 5, and he definitely was enjoying the movie. He was pretty into it. He's only been to one other movie before. So just the movie experience in itself. But it's funny, he was like, housing popcorn and candy, like he's supposed to. That's what you're supposed to do with a kid in a movie. But like with 10 minutes left, he starts falling asleep, and I'm like, no, like Shredder versus Splinter versus the Turtles battles come. I'm like, you got to see this. And he's like nodding off. Like so I had to keep him awake. But the music in the movie, the style of the movie is still really cool. How like the flashbacks they do are like almost really like super simple, like animation, like where they make it like a memory, and it's like almost cheesy looking, but then it like flash forward. Casey Jones is still pretty awesome in the movie. The scene where they go to the farm, I still remember that. And like, Raphael's like dead in the bathtub, and Leo's all depressed, and they go out and they fight in the fields, and the music, and then they meditate, and Splinter shows up, and the single tears rolling down Leo's face. I was all in again. Like, I felt the movie again, which was pretty cool experience to feel something that's 35 years old that meant a lot to you again.
Yeah, I think it just tells you how to make a real good movie. You have story, you have your base characters, and you go through everything, and you don't dumb it down for the audience and all. That's what's the killer about the future turtle movies. The costumes made you say, if there were real mutant turtles in the world, they would look like this, and they would act like this, and this is how they would fight. Nobody sat back and said, but what is an 8-year-old's going to think? It's a turtle beating up ninjas. How is there major thought to this process? It was absolutely perfect, and then they slowly digressed from there.
Well, that's the case with so many movies. The first one's always great, but you make a point, like, expecting your audience to be stupid is what ruins movies. Like, they know, like, we can catch up to a world, but when you dumb it down, it's like there's no interest anymore, and it's kind of like, this is so stupid, right?
Yeah.
But it was funny, like, hearing them use slang that I haven't heard. Casey Jones is just like basically some offensive, like, Guido from New York. He says all sorts of things. The amount of times Raphael says damn in the movie is hysterical. He'll just be like, damn. The first time he loses his sigh. Then he does like 2 minutes later, he gets it back and whatever, something else happened. He's like, damn. And then there's like one other time he's on the roof and he's like, damn, when he yells like across the city.
I remember that.
They're like picking up on things. One thing that was kind of cool before the movie, they played like that original Pizza Hut commercial that like played before the video, like where they're playing baseball and the kid catches it in his glove and he's just like reaching up and it falls in his glove and they all celebrate the kid at Pizza Hut or whatever. But very positive experience seeing something back in the theaters. And now I'm kind of like on a kick. Well, not a kick because I haven't done it again yet, but I kind of like hoping they put more movies from our like childhood in theaters again for like limited runs, because it was a really positive experience. Not just because I took my son, which was amazing to let him see it, but for me, I found it really enjoyable.
I've noticed pretty much the last few years they have been doing 30-year anniversary movies and items like that. They should just
Jaws was just in the theater again.
Yeah, I feel they should keep it up. And the way movie theaters are now, maybe if you keep it out there for 3-4 weeks instead of 1 week, maybe they're going to start seeing some more money than these new releases, because people aren't going to new movies. They're sitting back saying, I will see it when it goes to streaming. But I think we're at a point now where we say, I can see it on stream, but damn, seeing that in the live theater is awesome.
The theater. I think you're catching on, like pointing on something. Like I think it's also like deep down we still crave some kind of social experience. Like even though we watch it and stream it, maybe you're like, wow, maybe it'd be fun to go see it in the theater with other people and on a big screen and do some kind of something with other people around, and just instead of just watching Goodfellas for the 100th time by myself at night. I'm curious before we get to your guests, I know we're close here. What is there a movie came out today that you would really love to see in the theater? Not came out today. Came out a long time ago. Came into the theater today.
What's in the theaters now?
Yeah.
I'd like to see the Fantastic Four in the movie theater.
This is our movie phone segment with Mike. Fantastic Four.
Why don't you tell me the movie you want to see?
Playing at 7:10 in theater 3.
I think, considering my love for horror, and I mean, I know it's cliche what I've talked about on the show, but when Nightmare on Elm Street came out originally as a kid, I was petrified, didn't want to see in theaters, didn't want anything to do about it. But now as I'm older and I appreciate horror movies, and the fact that that first night, he's just creepy and it's slimy and it's bloody and it's terrible. I think it would be so amazing to see that again in the theater with the practical effects and just, yes, the theater, of course. That's where you go to see Nightmare on Elm Street, in the theater.
Yes, of course. I was thinking the only other thing I'm craving to happen again, not even an old movie. We need a comedy that is culturally like everyone's laughing in the theater. Big boom, like everyone's like I remember a couple of those. I remember even though I don't think they hold up as well, I remember Austin Powers being in the theater, everyone just dying. The first one I still think is good. I remember seeing the Jackass movie for the first time in theaters, like that experience of people like all laughing, something that's mindless and funny. I'm sure there's an old school. I remember seeing it in the theater.
Yeah. Basically, like any Will Ferrell movie, you put it back in the theaters for 2 weeks, it's going to make a few million.
Yeah, but that experience of a comedy where we get all like people are actually laughing at what they're all watching. There's no like dumbed down comedies, which I really think. I think the pendulum is swinging the other way with that, though. I think we're going to see some funny comedies in the next couple of years. But anyway, Mike, who we got tonight?
Well, as you told me how to segue, I had the perfect one with the flag match, but then you went on your tangent on Ninja Turtles. So now
I'm sorry. I ruined the show yet again.
Awkward. So just rewind your podcast for a minute. Berlu's making the funny joke about what a flag match is. Now come back. Okay, here we are.
So
Tonight,
you just told our audience to skip over our conversation.
no.
So it would flow better for
they've
you.
been through this, and like clearly, all our audience members listen to our 2-hour podcast for every second a minute. What I did here is I said, "Hey, podcast fans, go back about 20 minutes to that joke right there," and they go, "Yes, Mike," and they go back, and they're like, "Ha ha ha, classic Mike," and he told me to come back. And now they're at this point where I tell them the guest. That's how it works.
So Mike just basically told you fast forward through our movie talk segment is what he wants.
No.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, they went through everything.
Get
right
to
now.
our guest.
Oh, very well. It's a good guest, so I'll shut up and say this. Tonight, we are talking with Marc Raimondi. Now, he is a journalist for ESPN. He has done a lot of work with MMA. He's currently covering the Atlanta Falcons. And for you wrestling fans, he is the author of the book, Say Hello to the Bad Guys, How Professional Wrestling's New World Order Changed America. It's a great book. This is a great interview. Let's get Marc Raimondi on the line.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, Mark? How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Oh,
Doing great. I'm Mike, and that's Scott. Welcome to the show, my friend.
happy to be here. I'm Mark.
Hey.
No
Mark.
way.
That's the biggest reveal of all.
Surprise.
So, Mark, right off the bat, kind of, as we're going to be talking about your book tonight, it's been kind of a tough couple of weeks and all for fans who love the NWO. We had Hogan pass away. We had Buff Bagwell losing a leg and all.
Yeah.
I mean, how'd you hear about this stuff and all? What were your thoughts, especially about Hogan passing?
Man, Hulk Hogan passing away was a blow, I think, and a shock because it's just a larger than life persona, larger than life character, right? A guy that, his nickname was the immortal Hulk Hogan. He was immortal, right? And the character, lives on, of course. So it was just one of those things that catches you by surprise, just like any iconic figure that you grew up with, right? I think a lot of people remember where they were when certain people pass away. And I think for many people who were wrestling fans in the 80s and the 90s, that's probably how they feel about Hulk Hogan. They remember exactly where they were when they found out just a few weeks ago that he had passed on.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we just we did a show with a buddy of ours. We were doing like a wrestling quiz going into SummerSlam. We released an interview with I'm not sure he's a cosplayer, the Macho Verse. He was on our show. Yeah, he's really great interview right there. Yeah. And literally after we recorded the next day, that happened, and also it's just like such a surreal thing that happened right there, just out of the blue and all. And you didn't know if you could believe the rumors that were going out there. Oh, he's on his deathbed, and then the next person is saying, "Oh, he's walking around, he's doing great, he's selling beer, everything's awesome." So it's just very shocking. Everything happened.
Yeah, especially because he was, like you said, he was out there a lot. He had been pretty public over the last few months. Maybe not like in recent weeks, but he was out there selling the beer. He was out there selling this new Real American Freestyle wrestling promotion that he has with Eric Bischoff. So he was in the public eye. They had just announced like a few weeks ago that he was opening up this new sports bar across from Madison Square Garden in New York. And he was part of that release, part of that, that promotion. And then it's all of a sudden, I guess things went downhill for him. And it's, it's tragic. It's horrible.
Yeah, I felt it was a strange reaction to his death. Like people, for some reason, like because he had some political views, people just like buried, all the stuff that we remember him for and whatnot. But then we had this conversation on the podcast the other day how certain people are like,
well, Scott, let me stop you there for a second,
Yep.
Scott.
Yep.
It's not just political views. He out and out said, I am a racist. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of. I mean, that's not very opaque, right? That's pretty transparent.
That's true.
When you say I'm a racist, yeah, people are going to look at you a little bit differently. And I have all, nothing against anyone that, feels a certain way about Hulk Hogan. They have every right to. He dug that hole himself.
Sure.
I can't really say anything bad about anyone who has people are saying that they don't care that he died. I mean, I understand it. I mean, he said some horrible, horrible things about folks. And, I understand that. I also understand that, he was, as a character, someone that people really idolized and loved. And he inspired a lot of people when we were younger. So, both things can be true. It's a complicated type of deal.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying, like there's certain people that die and like their pasts just go away. And the person I brought up was Michael Jackson. Like, yeah, all this terrible stuff we know about Michael Jackson, even if 10% of it is true, it's horrible. But yet I feel like everyone, even now, it's just they just completely forget it. And he's just on repeat at bars and playlists and stuff like that. It's very weird how like people's deaths are very selective and when they die and how people remember them. But it's Hulk Hogan's a very interesting character because like he was very divisive, I guess.
Yeah. And I agree with you, man. Like, I think, Michael Jackson, too many, a lot of smoke where there's fire with Michael Jackson too, right? Too many people have come out and said things that are consistent with what other people have said about him. So, yeah, I mean, we live in a world where we're forced in a lot of ways to separate the art from the artist, because a lot of people who have created great art in our lives as Americans, they may not be the greatest people in the world, but they've created this art that we've loved, right?
Sure.
And I would even, there's a lot of people out there that are still living. Kanye West. I was a big fan of Kanye West, for a long time, and he has said some of the most heinous things possible over the last few years. And it's like whenever I hear a Kanye West song, and I'm like kind of like moving my head in the car to the music, I almost feel guilty about it because he's a horrible human being. He's I have a few words that I want to say about him, but I'm not sure what this podcast is rated as far as R or
you can say whatever you want,
my friend.
I mean, he's a scumbag. He's a piece of shit. Chris Brown.
Chris Brown's another one.
Music, but we know, again, many consistent things that people have said, that he's done to the women in his life. I mean, these are horrible human beings, but they've created art that we enjoy, and it's one of those things where Mike Tyson's probably the ultimate one, right? Where we've almost forgotten that he went to jail for rape.
What about Woody Allen? Woody Allen still put on a pedestal. He's like marrying his stepdaughter or whatever it is. Like brutal.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to. I mean, sometimes you can't look past it. Sometimes you can't, and sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. And we're human beings. We're flawed. We're flawed people. They were obviously flawed people. All these folks, and it's just one of those things that. It's complicated. It's complex. It's just unfortunately there's a lot of these cases in the U.S. and beyond.
I just find it so fascinating, like who gets the pass and who doesn't, and like that scale is like sliding at all times. Like it's just, there's no rhyme or reason why certain guys get a pass and certain guys don't. I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's completely accurate. I agree with that. I don't know why that is either. I don't give anyone a pass, but I try to look at things objectively because I'm a journalist and I understand there's two sides to every story, and I think that both things need to be represented. Both ways of looking at it. However way you feel about it. That's how I approach all things, almost to a fault. Like I feel like sometimes I wish I had more of a hot take. And the reality is I don't have a hot take. The reality is I try to stay neutral and down the middle for everything. Even the thing, some things where you can't like, there's no way around it, right? There's some things that are like a non-starter. You do something like if the children are involved. Sorry.
There's no big supporters of Jeffrey Epstein out there. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, pretty much.
Hold on, we don't know where the kids were on the island. Hold up, no,
I don't know. It seems the president of the United States might be a pretty big supporter of Jeffrey Epstein.
That's true.
So one thing we will not get past is your new book, which I got today, and I'll say hello to the bad guys. How Professional Wrestling's New World Order Changed America. I love hearing in interviews how you say how random it was for you to get requested to write this book. Can you kind of tell that story, how an article from a few years ago just turned into a "Are you serious?" kind of request?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a journalist, right? So I write for ESPN and I report for ESPN. Right now, I cover the Atlanta Falcons, but for many years before this, I was a combat sports reporter, and I
Mhm.
focused mainly on the UFC. But I did some boxing and some pro wrestling over the years, right? And in 2019, I was given the assignment to write about the NWO going into the WWE Hall of Fame. And I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. I mean, this is something that has been a very big, important part of my life. I have such an adoration and affection for wrestling, even to this day. Like, I'm probably going to go watch AEW when I'm done with y'all tonight. I'm going to watch AEW Dynamite. I'm a big wrestling fan, always have been. I'm wearing my Bruiser Brody shirt, right now. So I get assigned this topic, the NWO going to the Hall of Fame, and I write a story that I probably went a little bit overboard because of how much I enjoyed the topic and how much that the NWO was a formative time in my life. I was 11 years old when it started in 1996, and it was something that I remember vividly. And I remember just having, it just having a big effect on my, the main, big years of my life from 11 to 14. These are things that you remember. And I probably went overboard with the story. I overwrote it. I put a lot of like passion and heart and soul into it. And then I moved on and I continued about whatever I was doing. A year and a half later, I get an email, and I'm sitting in a hotel room in Houston, Texas. I'm there for a UFC fight, and the email is someone who allegedly is an editor at Simon and Schuster asking me if I want to write a book about the NWO. They saw my article from the Hall of Fame, and they saw that I put a lot of like extra into it, a lot of like cultural context into it that maybe was not even necessarily needed in an article like that. And they wanted to see if I wanted to kind of turn that into a book. And guys, I swear, I thought it was BS. I thought it was bullshit. I thought maybe a Nigerian prince was trying to steal my social security number. I really had no idea, this was a real thing. I couldn't imagine, a book about the NWO. Yeah, I mean, of course. The answer is, of course. Of course, I want to write a book about the NWO, but I didn't even know where to start. I never, I thought maybe down the road I'd write a book. I'm a writer, I mean, it's what I do for a living, but I've always been like a beat guy. I'm always a reporter on the ground every day, writing about what's happening, like I am now with the Falcons. I was at training camp earlier today, and that's why I have this tan. I've been out in the sun all summer, but yeah. So I once I verified that it was indeed an editor at Simon Schuster, it was not a Nigerian prince. It was not someone, it was not a phishing scam. I said yes, and I went about the process of actually doing the book, and it was, it's a crazy experience, something that life can take you in many crazy ways, and that was the path that my life took me on that day, and that was in 2021, so it's been 4 years.
Well, let's
I'll be
talk
honest,
about.
we will try to steal your social security number before the end of the year.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you.
But you're more legit because you say you're a Georgian prince. You're from Georgia, so
Georgia. I live in Georgia. I mean, I've lived in many places, but that's one of them.
So let's not brush past the process of writing this book. So you get the assignment, the NWO. That's a pretty, it's a pretty broad topic in general. We know it in culture and stuff like that. But how do you decide on where to start and what kind of stories you're going to tell through this? And then obviously you made it. You talked about changing America. That's a very big topic. Like, where do you start and where did you go down the road here to make the book?
Yeah, no, for sure it is. And that was one of the things that when I spoke to the editor at Simon and Schuster, we kind of shared we had a shared vision for what the book could be and like what wrestling and the NWO is in a greater sense, because no one wanted this book to just be a history book. No one wanted this book to just be the play-by-play of what happened in WCW from 96 to 99. That was not the idea for the book. There's elements of that in the book, but the idea for the book is this was a moment in time. Why was this group so influential, and what did that say about the greater context of what was happening in culture in America? And how much has that now, leaked into our lives 20 plus, almost 30 years later? And the hypothesis basically, guys, was the NWO kicked off the biggest boom period in wrestling history, right? Where it was being seen by more than 10 million people combined between the two shows on Monday nights in 98, 99. That was like the period of wrestling for everyone. How old are you guys?
41.
I am 48.
Okay, so I'm 40. So we're around the same age. We were probably all watching Raw or Nitro, if not both at that time, right?
Yep.
And I think many men, especially, were watching back then. No, I mean, not. I don't think. I know. I mean, that's
we all had a backyard wrestling federation.
Yeah. So the hypothesis of the book is basically like there were so many people, especially young men, watching during that time, and we're talking about preteen, teen, 20-somethings, college age, 30s. And now we've all grown up, and now we're all kind of part of the workforce and doing whatever it is that we're doing in the US, whether it's being a doctor or a lawyer or, a writer or, an artist or a musician or an actor. We were watching back then, and we have taken that with us to an extent in some ways, right? Because the things that you watch when you're a kid, it stays with you. It becomes almost part of you. And the theory of this book, the hypothesis, is that because of what we watched in the 90s, it has helped shape the world that we live in now. Because how do you shape culture? How do you shape society? You shape the people that are in culture and society, and that's us. That's me. Right. I'm the perfect example of that because I watched wrestling growing up, and it has had an indelible mark on who I am as a person. And I see wrestling everywhere. If you kind of know what to look for, you see wrestling in a lot of places. And what I mean by that is not like fake fights on the street corner. What I mean by that is manufactured conflict. What I mean by that is look at cable news right now. It's not even the news anymore. It's just two folks picking a side and having an argument with each other. It's like a wrestling promo, right? Except it's like two boxes. Talking to each other. Sports news is like that too. It's the same thing. It's two guys or a man or a woman arguing with each other, and that's kind of wrestling every night. It's
the president cuts wrestling promos nightly. Yeah,
yeah.
I was going to bring that up.
It's manufactured conflicts with the idea to entertain the masses, and then if you dial it back a little bit more, it's like the 90s. The NWO were the anti-heroes, the villains, and we have not stopped loving the anti-hero and the villain since then. As Americans, we love the anti-hero, we love the villain. Like that most of our movies, most of our culture is
Breaking Bad.
The Wire, Sopranos. I mean everything is geared, not everything, but many things are geared toward the bad guy. We love the bad guy. And that's why the book is called Say Hello to the Bad Guys. And I'm not saying the NWO started that trend, but it was certainly at the forefront of that trend. And I always say, like, the show, you guys watch the show Ted Lasso that came out a few years ago, right, on Apple TV?
I've seen it. Yep.
It was so like wholesome and so positive, and everyone was like a good person in the show, and people thought like, wow, this is so novel. This is what an incredible concept. Wow, how unique. That's how TV used to be before, in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s. That's how TV used to be. Every show was kind of like that until the 90s when everything broke bad, so to speak, to use that terminology. Like that was the time period, and the NWO was right, at that time period, and that it was part of the culture where Nirvana and gangster rap took over from the Backstreet Boys, and
even
the block and all that.
Yeah, even like Seinfeld, like disrupting, like they're not 100%. Good people, they're train wrecks, and that like Always Sunny just piled on that. Like they're just awful people. Let's see what they do.
I love that comparison because Seinfeld, while maybe now what people think of when they think of like anti-heroes, all of those characters were unlikable.
Oh, they're all terrible.
They were all terrible people. It was an incredibly cynical show.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly cynical. I loved it. As I'm from New York, I enjoyed Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was exactly it. That was the time period where culture had changed so much in America, and wrestling was right there. Wrestling was right there. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, the NWO, like wrestling was right there with all that stuff, leading that kind of generation. And then that's why, this book exists. And that's why that's the subtitle, because that time period with wrestling being right there helped change, what we do and how we are now as a country and a culture.
I just remembered like the whole times as it was starting up, like just the realism of them like beating up people. It wasn't even like, let me go to the match and let me have a pirate outfit on and let's have a match or whatever. Just I still kind of laugh and all looking back at Nash throwing Rey Mysterio headfirst into a trailer, and then all the anger coming from Hogan showing up and everything that went from there. Do you feel that they knew what they had when it started? Because it seemed like obviously it was lightning in a bottle, but at the same time, it seemed like they weren't ready for how big it got right away.
Oh no, they had no idea. It took them a while to realize what they had. It was so, man, they just had no plan. It was a lot of flying by the seat of your pants. It really was. Like they did not have, so to kind of, give some detail to what I'm saying here. Eric Bischoff, who was the executive vice president of WCW, he had an idea to debut Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, right, in WCW, to have them come in. They were going to be invaders. They were going to be outsiders, right? It was going to feel like they were coming in from the WWF. That was the idea. That was kind of like the overview, right? From 30,000 feet. That was the idea. And then the third guy was going to be Sting. That was the original idea. It was going to be Sting. And it wasn't. It was actually Hulk Hogan's idea, and I tell the whole story in the book of how it all shook out. But it was Hulk Hogan's idea to be the third man, and that is what took things to a different level. And I've gotten asked so many times over the last few months, had it been Sting and not Hogan, would it have been as big? And the answer is, of course not. Of course not. I mean, it would have been a nice professional wrestling storyline. It might have made some money. It might have done good ratings. Maybe they would have beaten WWE in the ratings for a few weeks. But we would not be talking about it, guys. I would not be on the Verbal Shenanigans podcast in 2025 talking about this if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. Obviously, he was the guy. But to get back with what we were saying, they really did not realize how big it was going to be. There's a story that actually Dave Meltzer told me. He's one of the major journalists in wrestling. Yep. He's been covering wrestling since like the 70s. And he told me that he saw Eric Bischoff at a show very early on in the NWO angle. It was like 1996, like May 96, June 96, Hall and Nash were already there. And Meltzer congratulated Bischoff. Hey, great angle you have, great storyline you have going on. And Bischoff was like, yeah, I think I can probably carry it, through December. And Meltzer's like, I think you can carry it through the following December. It's that good. So they really did not know. And it's hard to know. When you're in it, it's hard to know exactly what you have. But the business just kept on getting better and better and better and better. But they really had no plan. They had no, like the name of the group was kind of like a thing they came up with like that week. And they didn't have any merchandise. They didn't have a logo. They didn't have anything until, after Hogan's turn. And that's when they realized like, oh, we have to like mobilize and get stuff done because we can make real money off of this. Yeah.
And a woman from Disney got no dimes for designing the NWO.
Yeah. Crazy story, right? I mean, that was one of those things where I knew kind of the basics of the story from like Eric Bischoff's podcast. But when I was doing interviews for the book, one of the producers from WCW told me like, hey, you should find the woman who did the logo. And I'm like, what do you mean? I thought it was someone at Disney MGM Studios. That's kind of been the narrative over the last 30 years, or almost 30 years. And he was like, yes, that is true. But no one actually knows the identity of this person. They know there was someone from Disney MGM Studios, but no one knows who he or she was. So I was able to track this person down. Her name is Jenny Sloan. And it's a crazy story, but I was able to like, just through reporting, figure out, who she was. But there was like almost no clues that from WCW producers from that time. They really had no idea who she was. Like they knew that she was blonde. That was pretty much it. And she sat in the corner of the office. That was really it. And I had to do the rest. I had to figure out on my own and just like, report.
So take us through the. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead.
No, take us through the. Like this book gets you get the green light to go ahead on the book, and then the research process. Then when you're in it, like what was it like? Where was it like? Oh my God, I got to figure out like how to tie this all together. Did it flow smoothly? Take us through the ups and downs of getting this book finally to publish.
So the first thing that I started to do was I started to go back and watch everything from the NWO era. So like WCW beginning in May '96, into '99, and that was like over 500 hours of wrestling. Somehow I'm still married. I don't know how. I'm not sure. That, she stayed with me through that. God bless her. She's the best. But yeah, that was a lot because I was watching WCW like twice a day for 90 minutes in the morning with breakfast, 90 minutes the night before bed every day for months. I think a year. I forget how long I did it for, but it took a long time. But the reason why I did it is because it was something that happened so long ago, and I knew that when I interviewed people, they were not going to remember very vividly what was going on. When they may have a vague idea of like what happened, but they don't remember when it happened or who was there. You know what I mean? Like it was 30 years ago almost. It's hard for anyone to remember back that far. So I wanted to have a really good working knowledge of what was going on. What happened on Nitro that week. I took an insane amount of notes. And that I felt was just important to do because it was my way of kind of like filling those holes in people's memories, with what I saw and watching everything back. So that was like the first thing that I did. And then once I had that done, I started doing interviews. And I did some interviews like during the process of watching the book too, but I really wanted to make sure that I interviewed Eric Bischoff. So before I even agreed to do the book, I reached out to Eric Bischoff and I sat down with him for a meeting. We met in 2021 in Jacksonville at the Dave and Buster's in Jacksonville. It was during AEW Double or Nothing weekend.
Did you play any games while you guys were there?
Yeah,
we did not. We just sat at the bar.
I got him to open up over skee ball, Scott. It was a very moving moment.
It was a very short, casual meeting. I just kind of told him who I was. What I was going to do. And I just asked him like, hey, I don't know if I can write this book without your help because you created the NWO. You wrote this whole thing, right? It's your idea. And he said, yeah, no problem. He's like, whatever you need. And he completely followed through with that 120% because 2 years later, I flew to Cody, Wyoming, where he lives, and we sat down for 2 days, and we talked for hours and hours and hours about the NWO in that time period. And he could not have been more gracious. I went to his home, just a great guy. Met his wife. I mean, just a tremendous guy, and that was a really big key because like that was the guy that was going to help me kind of like put the blueprint of the book together, basically, right? Because he was the one that was involved in every aspect of the NWO for the most part, including being in the NWO, right? As a character.
Sure.
So, so that was a really big key. And then trying to, I thought you asked a really good question, Scott, about, how did I like shape the book, basically like, how do I do that? It was hard. I'm not going to lie. I've never written a book before. I've written plenty of articles in my life, but usually those, run max 5,000 words. And my first manuscript for this book was 110,000 words. So it was in my head, I was thinking like, hey, every chapter is like one big article. And that's kind of how I was like going about it. And then, then of course there's an editing process and then my editor who was very hands-on and, a very good editor and also someone who grew up watching wrestling like we did. So, he was a great, person to kind of bounce things off of, and he had ideas and I had ideas and, we then shaped it kind of in a narrative. And, one of the big things about this book that was really important to me and also Simon & Schuster and my editor was that, look, great for wrestling fans, right? I'm a wrestling fan. I wanted to serve the hardcore fans, but it was really important for us to make it accessible to those who were watching back then in the 90s and no longer watch, right? They were fans when they were kids, but they have not watched in 25 years. And that's a big segment of the population, right? That's
that's me.
Part of the audience. Mm-hmm. So we want it to be accessible where it wasn't like too much in the weeds with like inside stuff. And if I did use inside terms and phrases, I tried to explain them, to what do these things mean? So there is I wanted to, be as simple as I possibly could for those folks who are not, ingrained in the wrestling world now, and then also the subtitle, as we talked about, is very broad, right? So we wanted people who are not fans of wrestling to read this book as well. So again, you have to kind of keep it, as simple as possible without also losing the hardcore fans. It's hard. It was like kind of like a very difficult tightrope to walk. But that was the idea. The idea was to make it so that every one of those people, the hardcore fans, the lapsed fans, and the non-fans, all would be able to just pick up the book and just start reading and not feel like, oh, this is either too much or too little for me. And that was the goal. And I hope that, and I think we did it. We did achieve it.
You brought up Eric Bischoff, talking to him for the book, and I've heard you on interviews saying a lot of people want to bury him for everything that happened and all, but how much good he did keeping the Eagles control. How much do you think it helped or hurt him that he wasn't really like a lifer in wrestling and all, because he was like in sales and he was announcer, and then all of a sudden he's running WCW for 2 years? How much do you think that really helped, where he didn't have that old school, like, I'm going to bury you guys, I don't care kind of attitude?
Well, it helped him get that job, first of all. There was no doubt, because his predecessor, Bill Watts, had said some racist stuff and ran afoul of Hank Aaron, because Hank Aaron worked for Turner. And Bill Watts worked for Turner because WCW was owned by Turner. And word got back to Hank Aaron that Bill Watts said some racist stuff. And he did not last much longer after that, Bill Watts, in that position. So when they were hiring like his successor, they did not want one of the good old boys. They did not want one of the guys who have been in the business. They did not want the old boys club anymore. They wanted someone young and fresh. And Eric Bischoff was in the company as a third string announcer. He was a play-by-play guy on like the C show in syndication at like 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings. And not anyone's, expectation to be the next boss, but he got the job. He got the job. And a lot of it was because A, he was a good salesman and he was persuasive. And B, he was not part of that old boys network in wrestling. They, these were Turner executives making that hire, not wrestling folks. So they probably could relate better to an Eric Bischoff maybe than they could, someone who was already in WCW, who was a wrestling guy for 20 years or whatever. But so that helped him get the job. And then I think that it helped him creatively a lot, because he was approaching wrestling in a different way than had been before. And he was approaching it more like, this is a cable television show. It's an episodic show. There's going to be cliffhangers. There's going to be storylines that go, week to week. These are things that they've been a part of wrestling, of course, over the years. But first of all, wrestling on national television in primetime live every week had not really been a thing. Raw was live once every 2 or 3 weeks. And Nitro right away, hey, we're going to be live every Monday night. And how do you sustain that? And that's what he did. He created it where it was like a soap opera. Wrestling has always been a soap opera, but he formatted it for cable television. And one thing that Eric Bischoff probably doesn't get enough credit for is the way, and you mentioned, Scott, I think the Rey, or I'm not sure if it was Mike who mentioned the Rey Mysterio thing. So the idea of like all this stuff happening backstage, the backstage attacks, the backstage, you got like, it's like a camera in the locker room and they're talking in the locker room. That really started with the NWO. Now it's all WWE, like the whole show is that in WWE. That really all started with the NWO and Eric Bischoff's ideas. Doing almost like half the show during the NWO era was backstage. So much so that fans in the audience started to get upset because so many things were going on backstage and they couldn't see what was happening. So that is actually what spurred both promotions, WCW and the WWF, to invest in those huge TV screens in the arena. That did not exist before the NWO era. That was something that the impetus for that was because they started to realize that this was the new way to do wrestling, with all these backstage vignettes. So they needed to have a way for the fans in attendance to see it. So that situation, but with the trailers and Rey Mysterio and at Disney MGM Studios, if you go back and watch that show, you could hear fans booing. They were booing it because they couldn't see they knew stuff was happening, but all they could watch was the ring where nothing was happening. Yeah. They were hearing stuff backstage and they could not see it. So they started booing. So that's why they had to add those TV screens. And that's something that is a major part of wrestling today is those giant screens, the Titantron or whatever you want to call it. So that another big thing that Eric Bischoff did that probably doesn't get enough credit for.
It's really interesting. I mean, it makes complete sense. Now you're a guy, like, it's interesting because we could talk to you about the book for, a half hour, but you have this whole other side to you with the Atlanta Falcons here. And earlier I started this interview with people that escape criticism. The Falcons up here in the Northeast, I mean, this is a team that's never won the Super Bowl, but we're always making fun of the Raiders and the Cowboys and the Giants, and we make fun of the Jets. Why do the Falcons always seem to kind of go onto the radar? And it's a two-part question. I do want to know how you got involved into the beat writing for the Falcons.
I would say because the Falcons are not really how can I say this in a nice way? The Falcons they just don't have the Q rating of those teams. They just don't. Yeah. They don't. And even here, and I've only been on this beat for a year, right?
Okay.
But one thing that I noticed right away is that the South is college football country. Yes. Georgia is college football country. The University of Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs, that is the home team here. And the Falcons have like an uphill battle in many cases. And don't get me wrong, there's a great dedicated fan base for the Falcons. But the Bulldogs are kind of the team. They are the number one team here, and part of that is the Falcons haven't been very good recently. And I think if and when they do get good and they get better, that will start changing a little bit. But I think that's a lot of what it is. A lot of it is the fact that the South is, especially Georgia, places in Texas, it is very much a college football area. The Carolinas, it's college football. Sure. So that's a big part of the reason. And then your second question, I think, was how did I get here?
Yeah, how'd you get involved?
That's a question that I sometimes ask myself every day. So I covered mainly the UFC for 11 years, right? Last year, 2024, I made the change, and I was living in Los Angeles. I'm from New York. I'm from Queens originally, but I was living in LA for a decade, and I just there's a lot of reasons, why I made the change, but more than anything, it was, 11 years is a long time to do anything. And I never, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, when I was in college, I never really had the dream of covering MMA. I never had the dream of covering the UFC. I was always a huge fan of it. I was same way with wrestling. Like from the very early days of the UFC, I was a massive fan of it, and I would watch every event. I was very passionate about that sport. But at that time, it was an extremely niche sport. It was really, really niche, and I never thought that I would be able to be a full-time reporter in that world and make a living, and make a full-time living. So it never even crossed my mind, even when I'm in college and I'm going out to the bar every month to on Saturdays to watch UFC with my friends. I never thought hey, and I'm studying journalism, but I never thought hey, maybe I could write about this one day or, cover this one day. Never really thought like that. I always thought, hey, I want to be a baseball beat writer. I want to be a football beat writer. I want to be, basketball. Those are my main loves, right? Those three sports were I shouldn't say they were my main loves. I mean, I loved MMA, but as far as what I thought I'd be covering, I thought it would be that. And I went to St. John's University, right? So big men's basketball, I mean, yep. They haven't been, I mean, they were good.
They're coming back. They're coming
I
back.
hope so. Rick Pitino, right?
Yep.
But when I was there, and for a lot of time before I was there, and then after I was there, they were not very good.
Yep, no.
But still, I grew up on St. John's basketball. I'm from Queens. I covered the team when I was in college, and then after college, I covered high school sports after college for many, many years for the New York Post and other outlets. And that was what I did. And then it was not until 2013 when I started to write a little bit for the New York Post about MMA and the UFC. And then I was able to get a full-time job doing that. But, until then, until 2013, I never thought about covering MMA. And, I did it for a really long time. And I just, always thought that I loved it. Don't get me wrong. But I always thought we only get one life, right? I want to do other stuff. I want to cover other stuff, right? I would love a chance to cover, basketball or football or baseball. I don't think I want to be a baseball beat writer. When I was a kid in high school, I thought I'm going to be a baseball beat writer. And then working for the New York Post and seeing what those guys go through every freaking, 162 games, 81 of them on the road. That is torturous. I don't know how those folks do that. So I got that out of my system pretty quickly when I was at the Post. I was like, nah, I'm not going to be a baseball beat writer. But anyway, so I was lucky enough to have some editors who support me greatly at ESPN, and when I inquired about making the move last year, they were very amenable to it, and I was able to. In fact, editors that were with me on the Combat Sports team are now on the NFL team at ESPN, and they helped facilitate that move over. But basically, there was a lot of reasons. That was the primary one. It was like, man, it's like I could have done MMA forever, and I would have loved it, and I would have continued on, but. Again, it's like I'm 40. Maybe it's a little bit of a midlife crisis. I don't know. I'm 40. I wanted to shake things up a little bit. I wanted something new. I wanted new challenges. I did that forever. And
Can I ask you?
Yeah, of course.
Is any part of getting out of MMA beat reporting the fact that like Dana White doesn't really seem to take too many actual reporters in there? Like the great ones are kind of like independent and like he seems to block like the Helwanis and the Luke Thomases and the people who actually know the sport. And I see the questions he get asked, and it's truly frustrating as a fan. That's what's getting broadcasted. Just saying from a fan's perspective.
I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that Dana White, made our lives easier as reporters. Yeah. He certainly did not. But I think the one thing, and I mean, he blocked me on Twitter like 10 years ago.
There you go.
Wow. So take that for what it is. But the one thing that I'll say is that I think I earned the UFC's respect, and I think I earned Dana White's respect, and I earned Hunter Campbell, who is his like number 2 at the UFC, and folks like that. I was there, every event. I was always fair. I was always objective. I never. I felt that always came across in what I did. Now, were they always happy with me? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. There were times where calls were made to folks, high above, about things that I did, but I stand by everything that I did, and I think that end of the day, they respected me, and I respect them, and that's what it's all about. It's like, you're always gonna, as a reporter. It's always going to be adversarial to an extent. It has to be, it has to be. It is what it is, and that's just something that I understand and I've understood for a long time. I'm lucky enough to have that background where I didn't just start covering MMA right away. I covered a lot of stuff before I started on that beat, so I had a lot of experience already getting into that. And it was it was tough at times, but again, like. I definitely drove like their PR staff crazy sometimes. But
I just can't stand where it's gone. Like the stuff they allow. It's like, is Conor McGregor fighting? And well, there's so many great questions to be asked at these pressers, and it just they let this like YouTube, TikTok kind of question. Oh, is Jake Paul ever going to fight? And we waste our time and let Dana answer these questions instead of like the real stuff. And there's so many great MMA reporters out there.
I know, dude. I know. And
that's my frustration.
I mean, and I share that. I share that frustration with you, man, because I won't lie. That's one of the reasons why I left also, because I saw how, things were going. I saw the way the wind was blowing in that world and how they valued like the influencers and the TikTokers and YouTubers much more than they valued me.
Sure.
And I'm not gonna. I felt like I'll be honest with you guys. Like I felt like a dinosaur in 2023 at times when I was covering the UFC in early 2024. I felt like a dinosaur. I felt like I'm this old guy, and I was never the old guy. I was always the young guy. And now all of a sudden, like overnight, I felt, I looked around and I was like, oh man, I'm a grandpa now. Like I'm not, this is a young person's sport. And I did feel like that was a reason, that was one of the reasons why it wasn't the sole reason, but I did feel that way. And I will say this. I think that if I stayed and I continued doing my job, I still think there was a place for what I did, for the reporting that I did, for the feature stories that I wrote. I was one of the first reporters in that world to write about like regulation, to write about, weight cutting, to write about the commissions, to write about referees, to write about judges. No one was really doing that before I came into the sport. Not no one, but it was not done to the degree that I started doing it when I broke into that world. And I'm very proud of that stuff. I'm very proud of that reporting that I did. Drug testing. No one was covering. No one covered. I think USADA and the drug testing stuff better than I did. And I think that I could have continued to do that work. The one thing that I noticed, honestly, and I'm being very candid with y'all, tonight. The one thing that I noticed is that there is such turnover in the fan base in the UFC.
Oh yeah.
In MMA, there's so much turnover that I felt like in 2022 and 2023, I had to start going back and writing the same stuff that I was in 2013 and 2014 again, because the new fans that came in didn't know how the scoring system worked. They didn't know why fighters cut weight. They didn't know why referees make the decisions that they make in the cage. And I felt like, oh man, I have to go back, and I did this stuff 10 years ago. I have to go back and start writing about it again. And that was also like, do I really want to do that? I mean, I did that already. I was at the forefront of doing that 10 years ago. I don't want to go back and write that stuff again for this new fan base. And this new fan base is going to be gone in 3 or 4 years again.
It's funny that like class of fighters that I really liked is kind of gone now, and now it's like it's all new. It's all new breed. But I'm curious what you think about the new Paramount deal. I think it's great for fans. I don't think it's going to be great for fighters. But
God, let me answer. Mark was so frustrated with MMA that he sent an email within ESPN, and they agreed they weren't going to re-sign him. That's what happened. Mark uses connections. He's like, "We're done with this. Go."
No, not at all. Not at all. I really, I'm a little bummed out. I mean, and completely on a personal level, I'm bummed out because I really did think that at least some UFC stuff would stay on ESPN. I'm biased. I mean, I work for ESPN. I covered MMA for ESPN for for 5 years.
Yep.
And I'm a little bummed, that relationship is not staying around. And, I'm honestly real worried about some of my friends who work at ESPN, who their jobs are. Right. There's a lot of folks that, you don't know, that are behind the scenes, that are producers and editors and stuff that, their jobs were dedicated to the UFC, I'm fearful for them, and I'm worried, and I don't like that, on a personal level. So I definitely have like a personal, stake in this more than others. But I really do feel like, and this is more objective than personal. I really feel like ESPN did a great job promoting the UFC, and I think that the UFC got to a new level of popularity due to ESPN's promotion, due to, you put UFC on SportsCenter alongside the other stuff, and it elevates it. It raises it to that level of one of the top, 4 or 5 sports. And I think that's really going to be missing, when they go to CBS Sports, when they go to Paramount. I really do. I really believe that's going to be missing. They're not gonna, they're not gonna get those knockouts in the SportsCenter top 10 anymore. You know what I mean? Like maybe they,
absolutely.
But it's like, it's not going to be at that same level. And it's just not like, look at the YouTube numbers that ESPN's MMA YouTube has. Look at their social media numbers. I mean, other than the UFC itself, like their own social media and YouTube channels, ESPN's blows everyone else away. I mean, and that's a major footprint that they're losing. And I don't know what's going to happen to those channels. I have no inside information. I don't even think folks in Bristol know what's going to happen to those channels yet. But the fact is that ESPN has a massive fire hose to promote the UFC. And I think that they're going to be missing that. They are, and I also think that, I think on paper, it sounds really good, this deal for fans right now. It's going to be a lot less expensive.
Yeah.
Surely. There's no doubt about that, right? I do think that Paramount Plus is going to go. It's going to go up. The price is going to go up. Of course it is.
Yeah.
And that's how these things work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A couple bucks here and there, a couple every year. Yep.
And I do think, I wonder what's going to happen if everything is on Paramount Plus, and I guess some stuff will be simulcast on big CBS as well. I wonder, where does that leave, like, how do you differentiate between the numbered events, the old pay-per-views, and the fight nights? Is there going to be as much incentive for the UFC to stack those cards the way they have been? If they're not getting money on the back end, right? They've already made their money. The UFC is good. They did 1.1 billion a year. It's an incredible deal.
Yep.
I mean, there's no doubt the UFC is. I mean, anyone worried about the UFC going anywhere anytime soon? I think for a long time we knew that wasn't going to happen. But they are solidified as one of the top, sports in America, in the world, right now with this new deal, and that's amazing for them. There's no doubt. But I just wonder how that's going to be for. What those cards are going to look like when the UFC is not trying their best to sell a lot of pay-per-views. You know what I mean?
Is it going to look more like boxing with one big fight and kind of filler at the bottom of the card?
Exactly.
We'll see. We won't know until we see it. I do think that look, I mean, anything that in this economy, anything that's better for the fans financially is a good thing. Yeah. I hope that the fighters start getting paid a little better. I hope that that goes up. And that the value uptick that the UFC got in this new deal is also realized by the fighters. I'm hoping that's the case. I did speak to some agents over the last few days. I'm still in touch with a lot of people in that world, right? And they were very hopeful, and they were pretty confident that it would, that the fighter pay would go up. Another thing that I have questions about is like the big fighters and the champions got a share of the pay-per-view
points, yeah,
right. And now that doesn't exist anymore. So like how I guess it's gonna have to be on the front end. The UFC is gonna have to make bigger show purses, bigger guaranteed money rather than like on the back end. They're gonna have to. Exactly. There's no way around it. But you really wonder if you want to lure a Conor McGregor or a John Jones back into the octagon. Are they going to do that without pay-per-view points? Are they going to do that? And do they even want to do that? Is there that incentive for them to do that? Maybe the White House event, maybe that's something big, but it's like, other than that, they made their money. Their shareholders are happy. Their investors are happy, right? They made their money on that incredible TV deal, on that incredible, not even can't even call it a TV deal anymore, right? It's 2025. It's a
streaming deal,
a rights deal, broadcast deal.
Mark, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. You got great passion in everything you talked about, very informative in every angle. If you're going to be at the Commanders game, I'm going to be there. I'm a big Commanders fan. Side question.
I'll be there.
Oh, yeah, maybe we can meet up. Side question.
Yes, sir.
Come trade deadline, is Kirk Cousins still the backup?
Probably, but a lot is going to depend on what happens around the league as far as quarterbacks getting injured or not. I think that's the biggest question, right? I mean, quarterbacks go down every year, as we know, right? Anyone who's a football fan know that a quarterback or two is gonna get hurt in training camp or the beginning of the season. If that happens, I think the window kind of reopens for them to trade Kirk Cousins, but he has a no trade clause, and unless he's going to be going somewhere and starting this year, he's not going to clear that. He's not. I mean, he's a backup in Atlanta, and I think that he has that here. He doesn't need to go somewhere else to be the backup. But if something opens up where he's going to be the starter, and a team is willing, if it's a contender, right, and they think that, hey, if we can get Kirk Cousins, I still think Kirk Cousins is a pretty damn good quarterback. I think he's a good NFL quarterback, right?
Absolutely.
I think he's like in the upper half. I would even say he's like right in the upper half maybe of NFL quarterbacks. He's looked freaking great this training camp. He's looked great. So I think that if a team thinks they can contend and they lose their quarterback and they want to trade for Kirk Cousins, they're going to have to give the Falcons some of the guaranteed money, right? They're going to have to, because Cousins is owed $27.5 million this year guaranteed. Yep. So they're going to have to give get them some of that money back. And then they're going to have to, trade a pick, but it's doable. There's no doubt. I mean, it's a deal that can be done. The problem is that there haven't been any like dance partners for them as far as a trade. That's been the key, because everyone has their starter right now, but who knows, the Browns have like 25 quarterbacks in that room. Maybe none of them work out, and they need Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. I mean, Giants, we might have Tommy Cutlets available if the Falcons.
Look, I was so disappointed that when the Giants played in Atlanta last year, that Tommy DeVito was not my paisan. Was not playing.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry.
That was so disappointing to me. But hey, what can you do? Jameis Winston's over there now, and that's another hole. He's a character.
Oh, he's awesome. If we're gonna be 6-2 maybe 6-11. I'll take Jameis Winston interviews all
That
day
is,
long.
Scott. I got some bad news for you. I think 6-11 sounds like a pipe dream.
I like it. I think there's
Yeah.
never mind. That's a whole different concept.
That's a bit of. I grew up a Giants fan as well.
Yep.
I grew up a Giants fan.
Mark, if people want to find out what you're writing about, the book, and all, where are the best places to go?
I mean, my social media, my Instagram has so I've kind of like been dividing my Twitter, my X, and my Instagram. So my Twitter/X is almost all football now. And that's at Marc Raimondi, MarcRaimondi. So if you want to learn about the Falcons and whatever else is going on in that world, that's where the football stuff is. And I've kept my Instagram more wrestling, more book stuff. And that's Marc Raimondi Sports. So it's MarcRaimondi Sports. And that's on Instagram. So I'm kind of keeping the two divided because I've noticed that like since last season now, my X is like it's all football fans, it's all Falcons fans. And I tweet about like a wrestling thing and it's like crickets.
Yeah.
But I tweet like some minutia about the Falcons and it's like, oh, it's like a 13 retweets in like the first 5 minutes. Like, oh man, this is crazy.
Final question. When you did this book, what was the most shocking kind of, oh yeah, that person was a part of the group kind of moment? Was it VK Wall Street?
Like part of the NWO?
Yeah.
So my favorite story about this is actually Bret Hart. So he was in like NWO 2000, which I think I mentioned that in the book, but that's about it. I just mentioned it. It's not a big part of the book, but you know, in 98 and 99, Bret Hart was like sort of in the NWO. Like he was like an associate, but he never wore the shirt. But at one point he was saying that he was like the head of recruitment. I don't know. It was so, you know, but yeah, by that time in WCW, as you guys probably know, things were so convoluted from a creative standpoint. It was not good. It was borderline incoherent, you know, in 99 and then into 2000. So when I interviewed Bret Hart for the book, I was like, Bret, I got to ask you this. Were you actually in the NWO in like 98? And he's like, I don't even know. He's like, I don't even know myself. He's like, I have no idea. He's like, that's how bad they're created. I mean, I guess like, I have some Bret Hart like gripes in this book for sure. But that was a good one. I was like, all right, yeah, I don't know. If you don't know, I don't know, Bret. Like, I don't know what to say about that.
Mark, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to really dive into the book and all, and we'd love to have you on again sometime down the road, my friend.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Mike, I'm curious if
Scott, stop for a sec. Everybody go back to the interview. That was really good. Listen to it a second time, then come back to this point. Go ahead, Scott.
I'm surprised you're not telling people just to listen to your questions that you asked and fast forward through mine.
Wait, that was an option? Oh, God damn. What have I been doing all this time? Damn.
Can we also talk about that you could listen to a podcast at half speed on podcast players?
Well, I talk at half speed most of the time anyway, so they don't even need to hit that option.
That's actually a great idea. Everyone listen to Mike at half speed, which is really a quarter speed for
They hit the 2 times just to get me to normal speed and then go back for your comments.
What? Listen, you want to sell me that you can you want to listen to a podcast faster to hear it quicker or something to get it? You can sell me on it. I still think you're a psychopath, but you want to tell me that there's someone out there who's like, I'm going to listen tonight to your podcast before bed, but I need to slow it down to half speed to understand it. So where everyone's like, like I can't imagine there's an actual person out there that does it. But
we would love to have you on the show if you do that. I don't know.
Yeah, Mike, I think you should go meet Mark at the Falcons game.
It's still an option right now. The prices for the Commander, people generally do not celebrate the Falcons down here. As I'm pointing out in the interview, this is college country down here. But the second Jaden Daniels got to be Jaden Daniels, everybody's like, you know what? Why don't I take that price and multiply it by 5, knowing that it's probably going to be filled with Commander fans right now. So if I could find a deal, I'm going there. But the other thing is if I go, I want to bring my dad, and he can't do like a ton of steps. And right now, it'd literally be like, okay, Dad, now you see that ceiling? We're walking up to that.
Yeah. No. But anyway, Marc Raimondi, good guest here. Mike, what do you got before we get on out of here?
Well, Scott, we had quite an interesting adventure over the weekend here. So a little backstory for everybody. We have a Facebook group for the neighborhood, and there was been a roaming amount of times people are complaining about a dog roaming the neighborhood. The dog's name is Domino. He's like a 1-year-old pitty.
Or what does he sound like?
We didn't get to there, but let me go through the story. So I have met Domino before. He has showed up at the house. Like every single person in our probably 6th Street neighborhood has put up a post about whose pit bull is this, and it's Domino. And I brought Domino back to his house a couple times, and I don't know the people there, but I will say it's kind of interesting. One day I was driving, as I turned the street, Domino's walking down literally the middle of the street, and I just opened the door. I'm like, get in here, Domino. I go to their house, I knock on the door, I can hear people in there. I'm like, hey, I got Domino. And it's like kind of quiet. I knock on the door, and the lady's like, one sec. I'm on her stoop for 15, 20 minutes just for her to open the door and give back the dog. Yeah, so
okay,
very interesting. It's been a recurring thing there. And Izzy loves Domino, and she has jokingly said many a time that if Domino shows up, he's going to be our dog.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's a great idea for you to take a neighborhood roaming pit bull off the street and bring him into your house. I think that makes perfect sense, especially with 2 dogs. You should probably bring him right in.
yeah. So fast forward to this last Sunday. I'm down in South Georgia. I'm watching the Commanders against the Giants with my father. We're watching it at a bar, and I get a text from the wife, Domino's here. I'm like, oh, okay, cute, whatever. And she explains to me Domino doesn't have a collar all of a sudden. And so I'm like, okay, that's weird. So she had to, since we didn't have a spare collar, she picked him up and started walking him over to the neighborhood where they live and all. And she went up to a kid, and the kid's like, oh, that's Domino. And they're like, oh, the people on Domino? And they're like, well, he's a stray. We just see him on the streets, Domino, and whatever. So she doesn't, she goes to the house, get no kind of response or whatever. So Domino's in the house with us.
Oh my God.
As I'm trying to watch the football game, I'm getting constant text pictures of Domino in the house with Vader and Leia.
Oh boy.
Just getting along or whatever. So I'm like, oh, okay. Then as like the game ends, I'm all happy. I'm like, this is the Sunday I wanted. I watched football game with my pops and all that. I basically get a message saying we're keeping Domino.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. I was just about to say, did you keep this thing?
Well,
okay.
So let me get through the story and everything like that. So I dropped my dad off, and there with my mom, and my mom kind of joked. She's like, when she asked me before about if I'm ever going to 3, I basically said maybe 5 years from now. That's considering Leia and Vader would be like 8 in this time frame, and it's like have a dog there in case one of them goes, and they have somebody to play with and be around with and so forth. There is zero thought process in my brain of a third dog right now. And the dog is younger. So the dog is like late puppy, maybe early 1-year-old dog. So I start driving home and the wife calls me and she has our 2 Jersey friends on the line and they're all like laughing up and joking, basically saying, "You got a third dog." And I'm trying to, de-escalate the situation because I'm not even home and there's declarations I have 3 dogs all of a sudden. And I'm playing along with the joke or whatever. And I get home and I open the door and Domino's always been a cute dog and he jumps up on me. He's got a cute little face or whatever. So I'm like, all right, I got to go on the website. I talk about the Facebook group because the plan as I got home was like, I'm just going to ping her. She's going to be like, yep, come bring Domino over, whatever. I look at the old posts and you know how like somebody tags somebody and it's blue to go to their profile.
So she's gone.
No names are blue now, which tells me A, she left a group and or B, she left Facebook. So I'm in a more interesting spot. So I'm like, okay, Domino lives next door to her friend Jill, who did marathons with us. I'm like, did you talk to Jill? She's like, yeah, they're not coming out to look for the dog. She hasn't seen him going around the neighborhood looking for the dog. And on top of it, she talked about some story about she thinks the neighbor was involved in like some kind of road rage situation. And there may have been like somebody murdered in this situation. So, okay, now we're getting a little deeper in the woods and weirder and all that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to drive by their house to figure out the situation. As I drive by the house, it's kind of weird. And also, like, let's say your driveway is up and down. For some reason, their cars are parked left and right in the middle, kind of covering like one of the cars. And as I pass the said car, I notice a ton of damage on the back of the car, which almost leads again to this supposed story about maybe he got into road rage and somebody killed somebody.
So where's Murder Dog at the moment? He's with you, or
he is still, well, at the time, he's still with us. So I'm like,
okay,
all right, so we're in a weird enough spot where I can go, we can hold on to the dog in this situation. Because again, no collar, nobody looking, and everything looking like somebody just let him go or whatever. So you know me, love doggies and all that, but I'm kind of anxious about this situation. As I tell the people, as we know, I had 3 dogs at one point. Started with Callie, and when we got Callie, they said she couldn't be around other dogs. So when the wife got offered Leia, I didn't immediately go right away. Always wanted a chocolate lab. Leia's a chocolate lab. Worried about it wasn't going to work with Callie. Didn't want Callie to be depressed and all that. Week later, we decided to get her. Everything's good. Callie had like one sad night or two. She realized she's loved. Those 2 get together. And then 3 months later, the Vader situation happened where we go over and get him. Very hesitant to do this. I'm very concerned about the dynamic and all that. Dealing with 3 dogs. And it worked out again. Leia was the one that got depressed, but I was able to calm her down. Vader was able to be friends. All 3 worked as a unit, worked out perfectly. Sadly, we lost Callie back in December, so we're back to 2. The issue now we have is, so with the 3rd dog, I'm finding out new characteristics about my dogs and all. Vader, I always joke and all this dog wouldn't hurt a fly, we barely hear him bark. Apparently, he's very possessive with Bones because we thought at first, after it's looking more and more like we got a third dog, go out to Petco, buy a collar, buy dog food, buy bowls, buy all this stuff, and we're like, okay, we're going to get a bone for each dog. So they calm down and they look at this like a big event or whatever. So Vader he'll get a bone, but he'll go over to the other dog and steal the bone. Like Leia will give him a little rah, 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 and he'll go away. He doesn't know this new dog. So when the other dog goes rah, 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 they're going after each other. And it's like dog fight level attacking each other right now. So we have to pull them apart there. Leia is getting a tad bit sad and secluded and goes to her area. So I'm like, okay, I know I just got to sit down on the ground with her, tell her everything's all right. She'll come out. Everything's good. New dog will come in and come by the side, piss her off. She'll get angry and attack him. Then Vader will come in and start humping the new dog because of demonstrating dominance or whatever. So
did you do the same or no?
No. I use my volume for dominance. I don't hump my dogs.
Let me stop you there for a second.
Yeah.
You kind of glossed over the part. So you were at one point in on this situation, the possibility of a new dog.
I was in on the possibility. Wow. On the fact, it's kind of like what my mom joked about when I said, I can't see going to 3 dogs for like 5 years. And my mother would say, I know when you're going to 3 dogs, you're going to hear some story about some dog that got dropped off in the woods, or you're going to be driving, you see him on a dirt road, and you're going to take him in. So this is somewhere enough where I'm like, it's okay.
It's going to be on Burlow's 1000th episode. It's going to be, the question's going to be, how many episodes did say I either went to Disney or picked up a new dog?
Yeah. So the wife is all in on this. So Domino was declared Dante, named after the dog in Encanto. And the middle name would have been Gush, the nickname of Callie, because she said, we met Domino for the first time around near the end with Callie. So this is the reincarnation of Callie, Dante Gush Burlew.
I'm sorry. Dante Gush kind of sounds like a creepy guy you would meet like in a pool hall or something. Like,
yeah. We might have done some comedy shows with Dante Gush, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like where'd you get the Percocet? Oh, Dante Gush steals it down at the billiards hall.
So, okay. So it's like, okay, somewhat unofficial third dog. Okay, let's try it out. They're not really working out too well. Let's try going to bed. And the whole, I would say 3 hours is Vader's on the bed. Leia refuses to go into bed. New dog is on the bed.
Oh my God.
But Vader keeps like circling around with him, and the dog's climbing up. He's like climbing over my face, and keep in mind the dog is not fixed, so I gotta watch out for some things dangling near me.
All right. Let me break this down. So you're going to sleep. You would just invite new dog into your bed.
Yeah, I mean,
okay. You're like, come sleep with us, Dante Gush.
Yes. That's how I said it. Come sit with us, Dante Gush.
And so your dogs are circling each other like they're having a flag match in your bed.
Yeah, Vader is kind of like they're not feeling each other. They're not attacking each other, but they're a little restless, where there's no sign that they're going to sit down right away. And Leia's just in her sad spot.
And you're just avoiding dog testicles.
Yes, I'm trying at every point not to get teabagged by the Dante Gush. So it got to the
name
point
of this part of the episode, Teabagged by Dante Gush.
So it got to the point where Izzy had to go upstairs to the guest bedroom with the new dog to sleep, and I slept with the 2 dogs because I had an early day to go into work for a new employee. So I go into work, all updates on Monday from Izzy. It's like, they're doing so well. They're all sleeping around. They're not attacking each other. Everything's great. And I'm like, okay,
Even
we're
Dante
doing
Gush.
this if we're doing this 3-dog thing, now they're relaxing. This is the second day. This is what Callie went through. This is what Leia went through. This is awesome. And I come home, and we came to the conclusion that since I am the alpha of the core and the new dog is coming for attention of the alpha, my other dogs are getting mad and jealous. So every time I come home, it's just endless. Vader wants to fight Dante Gush, and Leia will not allow Dante Gush into the bedroom.
You know, like if people just tune in at this moment, they're like, who is Leia and this strange man Dante Gush in the Burlew household?
Well, that's why I'm not telling listeners to come back to this spot. We were just naturally go through the flow of Dante Gush and everything that occurs here. So, all right. Survived night 2. Again, wife goes upstairs with the new one, and I stay in the main bedroom with the other 2. And, Tuesday started off, and the wife is just like, I love this dog. This is amazing. We did a great thing. I'll also say, keep in mind, there's no evidence of this family trying to find this dog at this point. And we're talking about half a Sunday, all of Monday. We're going into 2. So basically 2 full days throughout 3 days. I'm not really seeing anything. And as I'm working from home, it's just naturally the same thing. 2 boys are going after each other. Every time the new one would grab a bone, the other one would come to grab the bone. New dog starts barking. Fight breaks out. Leia won't come out of her spot. I'm saying to myself, my God, this is the rest of my life right now.
Me and Dante Gush.
Yes.
Yep.
The dog is very sweet and all that. It just nothing's clicking right now with the pack, if you will. As the day, I would say mid that day, I go into the Facebook group, and magically the woman is back in the group. Now, some oddness still to this situation, because she's like, anybody seen my dog? We gave him, he doesn't have a collar because we gave him a bath and he got out. I mean, little odd story right off the top, because, I mean, again, the dog was roaming for quite a while and showed no signs of being wet or anything like that, number one. Number two, she says, well, we tried calling all the shelters and nobody has reports, so we're seeing if anybody's seen the dog. So it's kind of weird where it's like, okay, so for 3 days you didn't ask the neighbors, but you're calling shelters for this dog. Like, you're naturally assuming, as many times this dog came out and everybody threatening they were going to call animal control, you just naturally assume every time your dog is with animal control, which is odd. So I show it to the wife, and I'm like, by rule, we got to bring the dog back. You can't walk around the neighborhood with this dog if somebody's looking for the dog or whatever. And she's kind of torn. She's like talking with a friend, and they're bringing up, well, what about like the road rage thing and this and that? It's like, it's all hearsay. You can't accept it. If somebody's looking for the dog, by rule, that's their dog. You got to bring it back, and they have kids and so forth. So begrudgingly, she got in the car with me to drop the dog off. And I will say it's kind of weird. It still took them about a good 5-10 minutes to open the door. And when they opened the door, clearly I smelled pot in there. They're like, I'm not anti anybody who does it, but it's just like a weird, like, because this is like Tuesday at like 1 p.m. This is not natural toting kind of time frames right there. So Dante Gush went back to his family. He is reverted back to Domino. Wife is kind of sad. I feel bad for her. Like, she's literally talked about she was in tears a couple times thinking about because she super loved the dog. I'm a little bit relieved because the pressure of 3 dogs and the fact that they weren't getting along was like a big hindering thing for me, especially since I was going back to work again Wednesday. But I also weirdly told her, like, considering this, I looked on the Facebook page, there were literally like 12 posts within the last 3 weeks of whose dog is this.
Yeah.
So there's a weird spot where it's like to be continued question mark.
Yeah. Will Dante Gush return to the Burlow household? We shall see.
It sounds like a telenovela. Oh, gosh.
I was thinking of like the 1960s or whatever, Adam West Batman. Will Batman get out of this? Will Boy Wonder help him?
Will Dante Gush arrive in time?
Now, my real question is, how come everyone on your street is either involved in a murder or is murdered or killed or dies? What's going on in that street? Was I in danger when I was there?
That was a hearsay because there's no, like, I don't even like look it up, even as like the wife brought up, but what about this? It's like, so she knows. She's like, well, she assumes. It's like, she doesn't even talk to the neighbor. You can't just assume a road rage murder because you see something here. Is it weird, some of the stuff I saw? Yeah, but I can't go into it like that. But it like I said, it boils down to, I know she has kids. She asked for it, provided the dog back. The way the history goes, I wouldn't be surprised if Dante Gush doesn't stroll down the neighborhood 2 weeks from now when we're just waving at him.
No more dogs, Burlow. Stop it. Stop taking all
I
the
didn't
dogs.
declare it. I did not declare it. We went through this, what I was going through, and no, I had to dodge testicles throughout the night.
Now, Dante Testicles Gush. Okay. You had him for
that sounds like a great boxer name.
Now you had him for 2 or 3 days.
Uh-huh.
I gotta ask the question. Did you start to develop a voice for Dante Testicles Gush?
No, I didn't. Like, as I agreed to, we'll see about this. I kind of like with Vader. No. I didn't say no voices. I say, let it naturally happen. Like the wife was begging for a voice for Vader. I said, when it comes, it comes. And then I made him a nerdy dog who likes microfiche and protractors.
Yes.
Which is natural.
You gotta let the artist do the work.
Yeah.
You can't just expect.
Yeah. I will put it to you this way, though. There were 2 visions I could see if I eventually developed it. One was, well, Dante's a Spanish name, so maybe he had like a broken Spanish accent. The other was, as the wife brought up and all, Dante, short for Dante is Don. So she's like, oh, Don Gush. It's like, okay, maybe I could give him like a Jersey mobster kind of backstory for that. But since he's not in the household, I can't develop the story.
I see him as like the scummy drug dealer, Dante Gush, like dealing drugs in the neighborhood.
Well, I can't make him too scummy. If you recall the Farley voice, that was originally Callie's voice, and the wife is like, no, I don't want my dog Callie to be like that. So
how can you fail to mention the French dog that you made rape everyone?
Not everybody.
Anyway, stop it, Mike. Anything to promote before we get out of here, Dante Gush?
I am promoting a former guest going out on tour for their 50th anniversary. If you go back to episode 370, we had the honor speaking with Dee Snider of the band Twisted Sister. Well, they announced today they're doing a world tour in 2026, 50 years after being formed. Now, dates and locations are to be announced, but congrats on being able to keep going 5 decades after the beginning. I love Twisted Sister. Highly recommend episode 370. Dee Snider was an amazing guest, but congrats to them.
I would just quickly promote the Verbal Shenanigans Substack. It is our weekly newsletter. It should be out again as hopefully tomorrow as we're recording this. Trying to get back on the frequency of that. But if you have Substack, just look up Verbal Shenanigans. We just kind of put in like weekly little things there. And that's it. So check it out. Something else you can find some historical Verbal Shenanigans stuff. And that's it, guys. We're out of here. Life is funny. Laugh at it. Keep the wind at your back.
Make sure that testicles don't hit you when you bring in a new dog, ladies and gentlemen. Advice of the night.